The defense rests its case in the Rittenhouse trial, and closing arguments come in today, so it gets turned over to the jury. So we'll talk just a little bit about what's happening with that. I know we're going to be talking a lot about it on the Red Net Show tonight, so I have kind of limited it, plus for time, because there's so much else going on. In other news, a bizarre video and trend started going around online over the weekend, whereas a doctor started telling people that follow her that they can remove the vaccine by bathing with borax. So we'll talk just a bit about that. A federal indictment comes down for Steve Bannon for contempt of Congress. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there, what happens with that. And it turns out that the Veritas FBI raid has been leaked to the New York Times on top of everything else. So we'll go over just a little bit more of that. It is going to be all this and much, much more because it's a Monday over on Contemporary. Let's go, Brandon. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and it's a Monday, which means that we have got a bunch of shit to go over. It's the thing with the weekend, especially in the news cycle now, is it's either dead and quiet, and they try not to do anything because they, want to sneak some stuff under the table, or the other side of it is as it's been for the last few weeks, they just jam-pack as much stuff as they can in there, going Friday into Monday. We even still have some stuff left over from Friday that we didn't cover, but we're going to cover all of it today over here on Contemporary. We're going to get it all done. We're going to talk about everything. However minutely we do talk about somewhat, we will talk about everything that's up on the stack here today, and we'll get through it all in time to go catch the vast majority of the Daily Ignoramus afterwards. So do make sure you guys stay on and check out Steven's show immediately after this show as well. It's gonna, this was a crazy weekend. So definitely we will go into all of that. We'll go and check that out. And I mean, I have not even done anything with the Biden signing the infrastructure bill just because we all knew it was coming. I mean, it's not like it was going to stop at this point. The House passed it. The Senate passed it. It was going to his desk. We'll probably talk a bit about more about it tomorrow, plus the reconciliation that's going to be coming with it, if the Democrats get their way. But we will see what happens with that, and let's get down to it. But before we get started, do make sure you guys go check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. Make sure you guys are going over there, donating, telling a friend, telling a bunch of other people about the website here. We are trying to get this launched. We came down the last 7 days, which we were given 60 to do, but definitely we're coming down onto it. We want to get this up and launched, and even if we do get past the counter, we are going to continue to force our way into this. We all want this, and we know that the people want to get their news from a place that doesn't involve people wearing suits that cost more than their house. We want to get this up, launch, get some more on-the-ground stuff going on here. So do go check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. And as usual, any donations that you give to this channel until this is launched go directly into turnsofpagesproductions.com. We don't do anything right now with the Twitch subs. We don't do anything with the Buy Me a Coffee. None of that comes to me right now. That's all going right into Turn Some Pages. And if you donate, I cover your fees too. So everything that you donate, if there's fees, it comes out of my pocket. So definitely go and check that out. We're really eager to get this up and going, and it's going to be a great place where you can find such great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Freckles and Fritz Show, and The Porch Boys. Go check out all of those shows. They're all helping us out and getting all of this launched. And if you don't want a Twitch sub, if you don't want a Lemon sub or Buy Me a Coffee sub or anything else like that, you can use the GoFundMe. I will get the link up in the chat for that. If you want to throw a couple bucks into that, that would be massively helpful. So let's get that up in there for you guys. I do want to become famous. Buy followers and viewers on bigfollows.com. I very much do want to become famous. And do come and check out the Red Net Show tonight as well, where we will be featuring Katie Zed coming in talking about the Rittenhouse trial and some of the Ahmaud Arbery trial. I admit I've not been paying attention to the not the Arbery trial, but the McMaster's trial. The people who killed Ahmaud Arbery. We'll be talking about that yet tonight, plus a little bit of the other news that went on throughout the week as well. But, you know, I mean, you guys were all here. You all saw that my coverage was dominated by the Rittenhouse trial. So go and check that out. If you need to throw a couple bucks in, or if you can, that would be hugely helpful. And we will get on with the show. Let's look in at finance. Starting at the Dow. The Dow had an up day on Friday. Mostly probably looking at the fact that the infrastructure bill is going to get signed, but, you know, we're looking at more and more inflation here, so I don't know where this is going to go. There's going to be a large amount of government spending coming in, and that usually does spook markets, especially if there's inflationary costs there, but the industrials are supposed to be the big recipients of what's going on there. So, as of right now, this could go in either direction. This could come into a major crash, or this could continue to go up, and we could see 37,000 by next July. I don't know. I can't tell you where this is going to go, but we will see what happens with that. On your Bitcoin, let's get a refresh from last night, is at $65,631 US dollars and 30 US cents. Overnight, that is, well, over the weekend even, that is, wasn't it 62 when we left? Yeah, 62, 63 when we left, so we're back up to 65,000. So it looks like, yeah, people are looking into this and seeing the inflation and wondering where that's going to go. So I don't typically recommend Bitcoin. I am definitely more of a smaller meme coin aficionado because Bitcoin does kind of glow a little bit. But if that's something that you and your investor believe is going to be well in your future, definitely look into that right now. It looks like it's going to be on the upswing. And we'll see with that. Looking at your industrials. Your current scrap metal prices on your averages. Copper is up, steel is up, and aluminum is down on your individuals. Bare bright copper wire is up, copper tubing is up, flashing copper is up, but your Romex is coming back down, and so is brass. Brass shells, however, are on the way back up. That reloading crisis, and people need more ammunition. Looking at your irons, your BX steel is down, light iron is up, number 1 steel is up, cast iron is up, rotors are up, stainless steel is coming back down. Looking at aluminum, siding is down, aluminum copper fin radiators are up, radiators proper are up, cans are up, sheet aluminum is up, rims are up, electric motors are coming back down, ballasts are up, lead is up, but batteries are down. All of your catalytic converters are on the upswing right now, which means that there's probably a crunch to start manufacturing more cars. I'm willing to bet that some of these chips have started to come back into supply, so now they want the catalytic converters recycled so they can make more cars. But that's what we're seeing coming in off the industrials. Let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. Dow Jones Futures, market rally resilient. What to do now? Tesla, Nvidia stock in focus. From Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures rose slightly Monday morning, along with S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ Futures. The stock market rally pulled back last week, but the major indices ultimately closed with slim losses despite growth-led retreats midweek. Tesla, Nvidia, ASML, but not ASMR, XPeng, and Shopify are all 5 stocks to watch in the coming week. Tesla stock action is worth reviewing, but the chart suggesting possible support for bulls after last week's sharp sell-off amid CEO Elon Musk's online share sales, but safety regulators are reviewing a possible Tesla FSD beta crash. Nvidia earnings are due Wednesday night, with shares starting to pause after a huge run, which, by the way, we are going to be talking about the little dust-up on Twitter between Sanders and Elon, and Elon once again teased, "Oh, just say the word, Mr. Sanders, and I'll sell off more stock." Which, if he goes on another selling spree for stock, well, I'm not going to say it's going to be crisis mode, but the markets are going to react to that. Meanwhile, ASML, XPeng, and Shopify are all arguably in buy areas, and they all have peers that are faring well. Shopify is making its move as Etsy has already surged despite its own declining earnings. Amazon is approaching possible buy points. ASML stock is just below an official buy point, while Applied Materials and several other chip gear makers have already broken out in the past few weeks. It is ASML, it is not ASMR. But we can do the little whisper in the microphone and see if it gives you the chills. XPeng Peers, Li Auto, and NIO are near early entries. Meanwhile, Tesla has been hot despite this past week, while Rivian Automotive is rolling out after a huge IPO. Ford, GM, and now Toyota have all broken out as production ramps up as chip supplies slowly improve. Called it. The Rivian IPO in particular is off to a great start and is worth keeping an eye on for a possible IPO base down the line. In the very short run, Lucid Motors earnings on Monday night could be key for Rivian stock, given that both Lucid and Rivian are richly valued EV makers that have just started deliveries. Tesla and Nvidia are on the IBD leaderboard. ASML is on the IBD long-term leaders. Tesla, Nvidia, and ASML are on the IBD 50 on your futures. Dow futures rose 0.3% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.25%. NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.25%. Tesla is weighing on NASDAQ and S&P 500 futures. The 10-year Treasury yield fell 2 basis points to 1.56%. Crude oil futures fell more than 1%. Gas, come down, please. China retail sales rose 4.9% in October versus a year earlier, beating views for 3.5% and above September's 4.4%. Industrial production climbed 3.5% versus views for 3% and September's 3.1%. But a fixed asset investment rose 6.1% in January to October, or just below forecasts. Remember that overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. The fact that IBD. The fact that IBD comes out here and tells you so much more, because when we started this journey last year, it was just on your futures. Dow futures rose 0.3% versus fair value. S&P 500 advances 0.25%. NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.25%. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Now they're showing you the basis points, the crude oil futures, China retail sales, sometimes copper, sometimes Bitcoin. The market is shaky. It's high, but it is shaky as fuck right now. Which means that the good people at IBD, including Ed Carson, believe that you need to be watching what happens with China retail sales, with the chip manufacturing, with the crude oil, which the crude oil you should be, because that's what gets everything back to you. That's what's going to make construction more expensive and keep some of the money coming out of the hands of these big construction equipment makers, plus the chip shortages and the treasury yield. They're giving you so much information because I don't think they're confident that's going to stay up the way that it is. But we will see what happens and we will see where this goes. Let's grab one from Market Watch quick and let's get into the Rittenhouse news of the day. From Market Watch, Boeing stock would add nearly 50 points to the Dow after announcement of converted freighter orders from Tommy Kilgore. Shares of Boeing rallied to 3.3% to pace the Dow Jones Industrial Averages. Pre-market gainers on Monday after the aerospace giant reported a number of orders, you can get that in a number of different places, for its planes for the 2021 Dubai Air Show. The company said it signed a firm order with ICE Lease for 11 of its 737-800 Boeing converted freighters, as the launch customers for one of the 3 added conversion lines for freighters. The company also said logistics company DHL has placed a firm order for 9 more 767-300 BCF, and Emirates announced an order for 2 777 freighters. Boeing's implied price gain ahead of the open would add 48 points to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, while Dow futures rose 109 points or 0.3%. Very briefly. But it looks like that is one of the things that's driving the Dow up right now, which, if they're adding more freighters and more freight, they're trying to overcome supply chain shortages and get more stuff into your hands and pockets so they can pocket more of your money. Adding more velocity to the money, and, well, we'll see where it goes and we'll see what happens with that. All right, let's get into the big news of the day. And we're going to start with Rittenhouse, but there are a few people that the government is particularly going after. And I know I was a little bit off on the Twitter announcement. It's not technically the federal government that's going after Rittenhouse, but I do think that they have a hand in this, and they are pushing some of Ever's reaction to this as well. But that's speculative right now. Let's just start with what's happening here. Let's start with Yahoo News. Via the Associated Press, after final word from attorneys, Rittenhouse jury takes over. Yeah, he looks bored. Pose for a selfie, please. From Scott Bauer, Michael Tarm, and Amy Forliti. Attorneys were set to make closing arguments Monday at Kyle Rittenhouse's trial in the shootings of 3 men during street unrest in Wisconsin, the last word before a jury begins deliberating in a case that would underscore America's bitter divisions on issues of guns, protests, and policing. Rittenhouse, 18 of Antioch, faces charges ranging from intentional homicide, punishable by life in prison, to an underage weapons charge that would mean a few months in jail if convicted. No, it wouldn't. It would mean a fine. Rittenhouse, at the time, traveled a few miles from his home across the state border to Kenosha on August 25, 2020, as the city was in the throes of damaging protests that followed a white police officer shooting of Jacob Blake, a black man, St. Jacob, hallowed be his name, after a call to a domestic disturbance. Bystander video captured the critical minutes when Rittenhouse, with a Smith & Wesson AR-style semi-automatic rifle, shot and killed Joseph Rosenbaum, 36, and Anthony Hoover, 26, and wounded Gage Grosskreutz, 27. Rittenhouse is white, as are the 3 men he shot. The case raised questions about racial justice, policing, firearms, and white privilege that polarize people far outside Kenosha. You can thank your mainstream media for that. Rittenhouse has argued self-defense in the shootings, leaving prosecutors with the burden of proving that his fear for his safety and his use of a deadly weapon were unreasonable. Some legal experts watching the trial said the prosecution struggled to do so. Yeah, they did. Perhaps in recognition of that, prosecutors asked Judge Schrader to let the jury consider several lesser charges if they acquit on the original counts. Schrader indicated Friday that he would allow some of what prosecutors sought when he gave the jury instructions on Monday, which tells me that they believe they are fucked. As Chalaga said in the chat the first time I said that, that is Spanish for they are fucked. Persecutors, led by Kenosha County District Attorney Thomas Binger, sought to portray Rittenhouse as the aggressor. The night of the shootings, Binger also highlighted Rittenhouse's youth and inexperience, noting to jurors that of all the people armed in Kenosha that night, only Rittenhouse shot people. But key witnesses seemed to strengthen Rittenhouse's self-defense claims. Videographer Richie McGinnis testified that Rosenbaum chased Rittenhouse and lunged for his rifle right before Rittenhouse shot him. Ryan Balch, a military veteran in Rittenhouse's group that night, testified that Rosenbaum threatened to kill Rittenhouse and others if he got them alone. Mr. McGinnis, can you really know what Mr. Rosenbaum's state of mind was when he was reaching? Well, he said, "Fuck you," and grabbed the rifle. Grosskreutz, the only man shot who survived, acknowledged that he had a gun in his hand as he approached Rittenhouse and that it was pointed at him. Among the trial's most compelling moments was Rittenhouse's own testimony in some 6 hours on the stand, most of it poised and matter-of-fact. He said that he was afraid Rosenbaum would take his gun and shoot both him and others. He said he never wanted to kill anybody. "I didn't do anything wrong. I defended myself," Rittenhouse said. With persecutors trying to focus jurors on the totality of what Rittenhouse did, starting with the decision to come to Kenosha with a gun, the defense tried to steer them towards the roughly 3 minutes that began with Rosenbaum's pursuit of Rittenhouse, the period at the heart of his self-defense claim. After closing arguments, names will be drawn to determine which 12 of the 18 jurors who heard testimony will deliberate. With a verdict near, Governor Evers said that 500 National Guard members would be prepared for duty in Kenosha if local law enforcement requested them. So, and I mean, this article is telling you right there that this looked a lot like self-defense, and this is from liberal Dissociated Press. This is not from the Washington Examiner. This is not from the Daily Wire. This is from uber liberal Newswire the Associated Press. And really, honestly, the thing with Binger coming out and begging for lower charges at this point, that reeks of desperation to me. That reeks, well, we all knew that he didn't have a case to begin with, but that just reeks of absolute desperation that he knows that he done fucked up. And I've theorized that I think that he was trying to throw this case. There are people that have theorized he was trying to get a mistrial. I could see that. I could definitely see that. But it definitely looks like he was trying to throw the case, trying to get it out to, I don't know, hope and pray that they can get a mistrial and a different judge in a different courtroom where he could go back and redo this once again without calling Gage Grosskreutz to the stand. But we'll see what happens off that and where that goes. But yeah, I don't see... It's all in the jury now, which, to be completely honest and completely fair, we saw the honk-honk in the Chauvin trial that we probably can't talk about on YouTube, the honk-honk that went on there. And on top of that, I don't usually use Hollywood movies in my defense of what I'm about to say, but in this particular case, Dax Shepard's statement in the beginning of Let's Go to Prison, which I have seen, that's one of the few movies I have seen, kind of sums up where Rittenhouse is sitting right now. The three scariest words in the English language. Trial by jury. Your fate is about to be chosen by 12 people who are so dumb they couldn't even find an excuse to get out of jury duty. I don't particularly know if these jurors are in that case. I do think that in this particular case, there are people that were actually excited to come into this because they knew that they were going to be a part of a historical decision. I don't know. The camera doesn't pan over to them. We know nothing about the jurors, which is probably a good thing. And I know that they have to walk through protests in Memorial Park. I don't know if they are being sent out to their cars because they're not furloughed. I can't think of the word for what they are. They're not sequestered, that's it. They're not sequestered right now. Which means they're going home at the end of every night. They will be sequestered as they do their deliberation, but they're not sequestered right now. Which means they're going home every night. They're seeing the protests, and they're seeing, especially if they're... This is being tried by the county, so they might actually be out into the county somewhere too. Like out Silver Lake area, Twin Lakes, out towards Lake Geneva, that kind of stuff. Out to Wilmot, I believe. Yeah, Wilmot is in Kenosha County. So they're not coming specifically from Kenosha, but at some point some of them are going to be there thinking to themselves, okay, if we do this wrong, then they're going to riot. And they're going to destroy our hometown again. And we're going to have to go through all this again, which I'm sure the mainstream media would love because, remember, right now we're also looking at the fact that there is the budget reconciliation bills going forward, which I'm sure that Congress would love to pass through the dead of night so that nobody has to explain why their senator voted for or against it. I'm sure they would love to see that. Or the fact that, yes, in 3 weeks, we go back down to the debt ceiling showdown. So we will see what happens with that. From NBC5 Chicago, Governor Evers deploys the National Guard to Kenosha ahead of Kyle Rittenhouse trial decision. No author given. Hundreds of Wisconsin National Guard troops have been activated in preparation for a possible verdict next week in the Kenosha murder trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, according to Governor Evers' office. Approximately 500 troops are reporting for active duty and will partner with law enforcement as the city braces for the possibility of unrest. Prosecutors and defense attorneys for Rittenhouse have rested their cases, and closing arguments are set to begin next week. We stand ready to support our communities during this time of need. Major General Paul Knapp. Is he a modern Major General, by any chance? Wisconsin Adjutant General said in a news release, in close coordination with the governor, We have assembled approximately 500 soldiers to help keep Kenosha community safe should requests from our local partners come in. Which is interesting. I'm very, very interested in this and what's going to happen with this. Now, last year, all the way back in August of last year, there was pressure from the Trump White House to activate the National Guard in Kenosha when all this went down. There was already pressure from the Trump White House on that Sunday night. So just a reminder of the timeline. Jacob Blake was shot in the back while he was reaching for a knife ready to assault police officers. Objection, that's speculation. At approximately 4:30 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. I think it was later than that, actually, because I think the sun was setting. I think it was like 6:30. I know the sun was setting in the images, but in August, the sun would still be coming, it would still be high up in the air at 4:30 in the afternoon. So it was like 6:30, I think. Regardless, that was on a Sunday night. And the riots and the unrest started on that Sunday night. And then I went down to Kenosha on that Monday to go kind of show everybody around and show what was going on there. Show some of the unrest and some of the stuff that was going on with that. And recorded and streamed for 5 hours with no sound on. Because I'm a genius. The thing with Rittenhouse happened on a Tuesday night. Actually, if we timestamp it properly, it would have been Wednesday morning, I believe, because I think that was after midnight that it happened. They didn't do a lot of talking about the time in the trial, but it would be what we generally understand as Tuesday night. I still stand with the assertion, because the National Guard got called out on Wednesday to go stop the unrest. If Evers had called out the National Guard on Monday, you'd have never heard the fucking name Rittenhouse. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't want government intervention. I would have much rather the citizens stood up and defended their own property. But a lot of the area just to the west of where all this happened is lower middle class soccer mom America. It's not exactly soccer mom America, but it's the lower level of soccer mom America. Whereas they've been conditioned and taught throughout their lives to accept what law enforcement does and never take matters into their own hands. Unless their lives are being directly threatened. And looking at this trial, there's a chance that now the narrative has shifted to never ever taking matters into your own hands, just call the police. Regardless, if Evers had done this on Monday, what he's doing right now, ahead of the verdict, if he had done this on Monday, none of this shit would have ever happened. Rosenbaum would maybe still be alive. He might have offed himself by this point because, remember, he was at St. Luke's for a suicide watch right before this. He's 50-50. Huber would still be alive, and Grosskreutz would still have his entire arm. And he would still be absolutely insufferable. So this is my message to you, Tony Evers. This is a big fuck you to you. And I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday in the gym while we were changing out. And he pointed out the fact that he used to think that Evers was completely incompetent. But the fact that he is pulling the National Guard now, in a non-election year, instead of letting Kenosha descend into chaos. Whereas last year, he just let it go into chaos. And only called him out after somebody shot back. Evers is a criminal. And needs to be removed from his office immediately. That was criminal. But that's where we go off of that. Here's an op-ed from Fox News. Judge questions Rittenhouse gun charge, raising doubts about the persecutions case. From Jonathan Turley. In covering the motions hearing last week, In the trial of Rittenhouse, I noted a surprising comment from Judge Bruce Schrader that he had spent hours with the Wisconsin gun law and could not state with certainty what it means in this case. The statement could effectively knock out the misdemeanor gun possession count, the one count that could still be in play for the jury after the persecution's case on the more serious offense appeared to collapse in court. A close examination of that provision reveals ample reason to question not just its meaning, but its application to this case. The unlawful possession of the gun has been a prominent fact cited not only by the persecutors but the press, who are also persecutors. At trial, however, persecutor Thomas Binger at points seemed to be learning the government law from Rittenhouse. For example, he pressured Rittenhouse on why he did not just purchase a handgun rather than an AR-15. Rittenhouse replied that he could not possess a handgun at his age. Binger then asked in apparent disbelief that the law that allowed him to have an AR-15 but not a handgun, and Rittenhouse said yes. Binger then moved on after seemingly drawing out a point for the defense. The exchange was all the more baffling because it drew attention to the fact that one of the Binger's alleged victims was an adult named Gage Grosskreutz, who had decided to bring a handgun to the protest and pointed his .40 caliber Glock at the head of Rittenhouse when he shot him. However, the most damaging moment came outside the presence of the jury when the judge drilled down on the law. He told persecutors, "I have been wrestling with this statute I'd hate to count the hours I put into it, but I'm still trying to figure out what it says, what's prohibited. I have legal education." He added that he failed to understand how an ordinary citizen could understand what is illegal. It's hard to understand how the count could be given to the jury without a clear understanding of what it means. It is also hard to instruct a jury on the ambiguous statute. Criminal laws are supposed to be interpreted narrowly. It's called the rule of lenity and has been around in the English system for centuries. For example, in 1547, the court was faced with a law making it a felony to steal horses, geldings, or mares, given the use of plural nouns. The court ruled that it did not apply to stealing just one horse. That's interesting. It is not clear that the statute actually bars possession by Rittenhouse. The problem with the Wisconsin statute is not a problem of pluralization, but definition. It's not clear that the statute actually bars possession by Rittenhouse. Indeed, it may have come down to the length of Rittenhouse's weapon, and the persecutors never bothered to measure it and place it into evidence. In Wisconsin, minors cannot possess short-barreled rifles under Section 941.28. That's true. Putting aside the failure to put into evidence the record to claim such a short length, it does not appear to be the case here. Rittenhouse used a Smith & Wesson MP15 with an advertised barrel length of 16 inches and an overall length of 36.9 inches. That is not a short barrel. Then there's the rest of the statute, and ultimately the word "and." Under Section 948.60, subsection 2A, possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18. Any person under 18 years of age who possesses or goes armed with a dangerous weapon is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. That makes Rittenhouse guilty, right? Well, you have to look at the subsection C, which states that this section applies only to a person under 18 who possesses and is armed with a rifle or shotgun if the person is in violation of 941.28 or is not in compliance with special section 29.304 and 29.593. Since there's no evidence that Rittenhouse violated section 941.28, he is presumably must be in violation of both sections 29.304 and 29.593. The defense conceded Rittenhouse was in violation of section 29.593, which requires certification for weapons. However, he is not in violation of 29.304, entitled Restrictions on Hunting and Use of Firearms by Persons Under 16 Years of Age. As the title indicates, the section makes it illegal for persons under 16 to use firearms. Rittenhouse was 17 at the time, and the prosecution has not challenged that fact. I would have to go look at my laws again, because in Wisconsin, when you're 12, you can purchase a hunting license and carry a firearm. You are supposed to be under adult supervision when you do, at that age. But, we've all been on deer drives before. Well, those of us in Wisconsin have been on a deer drive before where it's really difficult to be under adult supervision at that age. Usually you have 5 guys spread out throughout a forest, going from one end to the other to try and spook up the deer that are in there towards the people who are sitting on stand waiting. Which is what makes this all into a very, very gray area. Now, yes, certification, because he wouldn't have had a Wisconsin hunter safety card, which I don't know why, but apparently he didn't, especially if he's going up to Ladysmith to go shoot guns. I don't know why he wouldn't have a Wisconsin hunter safety card, but apparently he didn't. Or any sort of hunter safety card. But that's what we go with that. So that could get thrown out too. Let's keep going here. From The Blaze, Ben & Jerry's blasted for spreading misinformation about Kyle Rittenhouse inventing a hypothetical scenario to bring race into the case. Just so you know, I haven't pre-read this, so I'm very interested to see what it was that they have to be. I wanted to be surprised with everybody else. From Paul Saka. Progressive ice cream brand Ben & Jerry's dish out misinformation about Kyle Rittenhouse, plus completely invented a hypothetical scenario regarding the controversial shooting to racialize the powder keg court case. The Vermont-based woke ice cream purveyor was called out for spreading false narrative online. The Rittenhouse shooting has absolutely nothing to do with race, since the shooter and all those who were shot were white men, without a racial angle to exploit. Ben & Jerry's dreamt up a completely hypothetical situation out of thin air that never actually happened to bring race into the picture. The hashtag Rittenhouse trial displays yet again that our justice system is racist. The ice cream brand wrote on Twitter, "How would this trial be going if he was a black 17-year-old that crossed state lines illegally carrying an AR-15 and shot 3 white protesters?" Because of course it is. The Rittenhouse trial is still ongoing and no verdict has been handed down yet, but that didn't stop the Ben & Jerry's from tweeting, "We need real justice in the legal system. This isn't it." Ben & Jerry's, which is owned by multinational conglomerate Unilever that boasted revenue of approximately $58 billion in 2020, promoted a fallacy about Rittenhouse that has been debunked for more than a year. The Lake County State Attorney's Office released a statement on October 13, 2020, clarifying that Rittenhouse never had possession of the firearm used during Kenosha riots while he was in Illinois. An extensive investigation was conducted by the Ann Arbor Police Department regarding the gun used in a shooting in Kenosha on August 28th. The Lake County State's Attorney's Office has reviewed the investigation to determine if any crimes were committed in Lake County, Illinois. To that end, the investigation revealed the gun was used in the Kenosha shooting was purchased, stored, and used in Wisconsin. Additionally, there was no evidence the gun was ever physically possessed by Rittenhouse in Illinois. Fact Checker Lead Stories published an article this week titled "Kyle Rittenhouse Did Not Cross State Lines with an AR-15." The gun he used in the shooting in Kenosha was purchased, stored, and used in Wisconsin, the Lake County, Illinois Sheriff's Office said in a statement. A friend testified during the Rittenhouse's 2021 trial that he purchased the gun used in the shooting in Wisconsin. The New York Times, a former newspaper, reported, "Court records obtained by the Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, showed that the rifle used in the shootings in Kenosha went from Wisconsin to Illinois, then back, but was in the trunk of a car driven by Rittenhouse's friend and was not in Rittenhouse's possession while he was in Illinois." Also, Rittenhouse's weapon was a Smith & Wesson P15 rifle, not AR-15, as Ben & Jerry's Post stated. That's a minor detail because they always say, AR style! Stephen Miller wrote the whole narrative blew up in their faces, so now they've created a fictional teenager and story to fit the old one. Amelia Hamilton wrote, "This is a false premise since Rittenhouse didn't do that either." Derek Hunter says the proper analogy would be if Rittenhouse were black, and so were the people he shot since they're all white now. And the reality is you wouldn't have given a damn. That would be an average day that ends in Y in Chicago. Oof. And you haven't said anything about it for years. Zaid Gilani, the framework here is a bit outdated. If a black guy shot 3 white rioters, Antifa in today's political climate, the Republican Party would probably try to draft him and run for some kind of elected office. Allie Stuckey, these people do not live in reality. Their brains are total and complete mush. Absolutely insane. So they got pushed back off of that. That was dark though. And I mean, true. Derek Hunter. If a black kid had crossed state lines and killed 3 more black people, that's Tuesday in Chicago. So, good on them. From the Daily Mail. Warning, explicit language coming. Under your black robes of justice, you wear a white robe of the Klan. Daily Mail reveals vile emails sent to Judge in Kyle Rittenhouse case, including threats to spit directly in his face and payback against his children. From Laura Collins, chief investigative reporter in Kenosha, Wisconsin, for DailyMail.com. The judge presiding over the Rittenhouse trial has been slammed as a racist and had his life threatened in a torrent of abusive and menacing emails, letters, postcards, and faxes received by Kenosha County Courthouse and seen by DailyMail.com. DailyMail.com has reviewed the hundreds of offensive communications sent to Bruce Schrader, and today we can reveal the extraordinary outpouring of vitriol that the high-profile trial has inspired. One email sent Wednesday simply reads, "Wow, way to name a white skinhead, hot head, to be a judge. No wonder they burned down your city." Others call for a racist judge, or for the racist judge rather, the longest serving in the country, to be dismissed and disbarred. One addressed, "Your Honor," reads, I didn't know that under your black robes of justice you wear a white robe of the Klan. There's no way a fair trial can be heard under your supervision. Better yet, resign." So let's look at some of these here. There's the one. This comes actually, document 202, scan 1029. So this has actually been entered into evidence. They're doing an investigation for this one. Yes, under your black robes of justice, you wear the white robe of the Klan. Better yet, resign. Out-of-state Wisconsinite. Another one here, also entered in evidence. "Enjoy your term, Judge. It's going to be your last. If I ever meet you in person, I fully intend to spit directly in your face regardless of the cost. You're disgusting." This one came signed with a name that I'm not going to read out loud, obviously, but he also had an inspirational quote from H.L. Mencken that says, "For every complex problem, there's an answer that's clear, simple, and wrong." The next one here. "The following form was submitted via your website. Contact us, Clerk of Courts. Names blanked out. Address blanked out. Subject Kyle. Message. So I can't call the wounded men victims, says your judge. One day hope his kids become victims to the most heinous homicide known to man. So he feels the pain and will call his kids not victims, but bastards and descendants of a..." I don't know what was supposed to be hidden behind that bleep. "Family and father figure. Racist bastard, God will pay you back for your statements. They are..." And then it cuts off. See, I don't know why they bleeped out bastards here, but not here. Another one here. This one came to Lori Yoakum. "Wow, way to name a white skinhead hothead to be a judge. No wonder they burned down your city." And then this also is out here, going around. "Please fire this racist. Judge Schrader is a disgrace to the law. Remove him from any judicial proceedings." All right, I'm going to do these last two here because this is the long one. This is the big one. This guy apparently revealed his real name though. First name John, last name Q Public. Zip 53142, which is southwest side Kenosha, by the way. Preferred contact method, email. Stop sucking up to murderous little twat-sucking white supremacists. You are a fucking Nazi, Judge. Or, I'm sorry, are you a fucking Nazi, Judge? Because it sure does sound like you're either a Nazi slime turd or that you're a senile old dementia patient, because there's no other way to explain you barring people from referring to victims of a shit-lipped Rittenhouse as fucking victims of a fucking crime, despite them being fucking murdered by a Nazi twerp who admits he took up arms, came to our city, and fucking shot people, then ran the fuck away. I think I know John Q. Public's favorite word. Oh, but you will allow them to be called looters and terrorists. Clearly, you hope to prejudice the jury to let that bootlicking shithole walk. You fucking Nazi apologist. You suck shit right out of your own asshole, you nitwit. Charming. And the last one. This is outrageous and will not pass the smell test. He can demonize them if he wants, if he thinks it'll win points with the jury, Schrader said. What the fresh hell is this? Rittenhouse is a murderous thug, and trying to protect him says a lot about this judge we're watching. With a link to Bruce Schrader's Ballotpedia page. So, yeah, that's a copy of some of the emails that the judge is getting. I can't imagine what the jury is getting off at this point, especially if we know who they are. Sean Davis tweets out, attacks on Rittenhouse, part of a plan to disband a well-regulated militia. To which Christian Vanderbroek screenshots, doesn't quote tweet, screenshots this and says, what the hell kind of well-regulated militia includes child soldiers? Well, Mr. Vanderbroek, if we go back and actually look at the time when the Constitution was drafted in 1791, when the Bill of Rights was being put into place and passed, the well-regulated militia would include people that you consider to be children now. 13, 14, 15-year-olds, 16, 17, absolutely. Absolutely, they would have been included in this. Hell, even the 9-year-old, if he could pick up the bolt action and make it work, would come back out and say, hey, Pa! Some terrorists come into our yard, but I got him! And Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff, who I don't know why she is blue checkmarked, but let's see if we can figure out. Ah, she's a Newsmax contributor. Retired Gunnery Sergeant, Marine Corps. Child soldiers, I joined the Marines at 17. I'm doing my part. Oh, fuck, that hurt. I tweaked my arm while I was throwing brakes on my pickup over the weekend. Maybe I'll use this one to raise the fist of power. I'm doing my part. Another one from the Blaze for you guys. Kyle Rittenhouse's mom issues 6-word response when asked if they will sue Joe Biden for defaming Rittenhouse. From Chris Enlow. The mother of Kyle Rittenhouse suggested Saturday that her attorneys are considering a lawsuit against the president for allegedly associating her son with white supremacy. During an interview on Fox News' Fox and Friends, Wendy Rittenhouse was asked if the Rittenhouse team plans to take action against powerful Americans, including Biden, for interfering in the justice system and defaming 18-year-old Rittenhouse. The elder Rittenhouse had a 6-word response. I wonder if this goes right to the clip. I guess we'll find out together, won't we?
I was cornered from in front of me, and there were
As the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse nears its end, the judge in the case will issue a ruling today on exactly what charges he will allow to be considered.
The move potentially opening the door for lesser charges against Rittenhouse as jury members prepare their deliberations.
It was an emotional week for the trial, including a very tearful testimony by the defendant himself. And through it all, standing by his side is his mother, Wendy Rittenhouse. Wendy, welcome to Fox and Friends. As a mom, I can't imagine being in your shoes, watching your son having this very emotional moment where his life is really on the line right there. How are you holding up?
Thank you for having me. I'm holding up the best I can. We're staying strong for Kyle. It was a very difficult day for our family and him, and we're getting through it.
And Wendy, are you throughout the trial, are you having an opportunity to speak to Kyle and get a sense of how he's holding up?
He's he's a very strong young man, and he has a lot of sport behind him, and he's doing good.
You know, Wendy, I think watching this week, many who have followed trials and were a little surprised to see Kyle took the stand. It's not common for a criminal defense defendant to take the stand. Often they choose not to testify. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Why did Kyle decide to do that? Why did he want to get up there and tell his story?
He wanted to take the stand, and he wanted to tell what happened to him that night. And I didn't know that he was going to take the stand till...
Yeah, they're probably not going to wait until the end to go back and do that. So let's just talk about what it is. In 2020, then presidential candidate Biden tweeted a video of alleged examples of white supremacy with audio from a presidential debate between Biden and then President Donald Trump. The video included an image of Rittenhouse. There's no other way to put it. The President of the United States refused to disavow white supremacists on the debate stage last night, Biden tweeted on September 30th of 2020. During an interview with Fox News' host Sean Hannity Thursday, Wendy Rittenhouse explained what she felt when she saw the Biden tweet. When I saw that, I was shocked, she said. I was angry. President Biden don't know my son whatsoever. He's not a white supremacist. He's not a racist. And Biden did that for the votes. And I was so angry for a while at him and what he did to my son. He defamed him. Of course, Rittenhouse told Fox News what she is hoping for and expecting, not guilty verdict. Well, what were the 6 words? Oh, I missed that complete paragraph, that's why. During an interview on Fox News' Fox and Friends, Wendy Rittenhouse was asked if Rittenhouse teams plans to take any action against powerful Americans, including Biden, for interfering in the justice system and defaming the 18-year-old Rittenhouse. The elder Rittenhouse had a 6-word response. Our lawyers are going to handle that. Wendy Rittenhouse responded. Well, good. Let them do that. I said the same thing that the police officer pulled me over a couple weeks ago. Well, okay, I mean, you can just pay the fine or whatever, but, or you have to be here by this court date and enter, well, this is guilty or not guilty. I said, don't worry. I have a lawyer for that. My lawyer will handle that. So good, we'll see what happens there. All right, let's keep going. Shifting gears here, talking about the vaccine stuff. From Fox Business, appeals court reaffirms stay on Biden workplace vaccine mandate, cites severe risk. Just do it anyway. Just do your mandate anyway. We'll get this figured out in the courts, but you gotta just do it anyway. I don't care what the court says. From Thomas Barabi. I don't understand their insistence on lesser charges. Because they're fucked on their main charges and they want to see if they can get something to stick. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall is what they're doing, essentially. A federal appeals court reaffirmed its decision on Friday to enact a stay on President Biden's workplace vaccination mandate following a legal challenge from Texas and several other states. The Fifth Circuit appeals ordered the U.S. Labor Department's Occupational Safety and Health Administration to take no steps to implement or enforce the mandate until further court order. The decision was the latest development in what is expected to be a lengthy battle over the mandate's legality. Texas AG Ken Paxton, a vocal critic of the workplace vaccine mandate, lauded the court's decision on Twitter. Citing Texas's compelling arguments, the Fifth Circuit has delayed OSHA's unconstitutional and illegal private business vaccine mandate. We won. Litigation will continue, but this is a massive victory for Texas and for freedom from Biden's tyranny and lawlessness, Paxton wrote. At Biden's direction, the OSHA issued a rule earlier this month requiring U.S. employers with 100 or more workers to ensure their workers are fully vaccinated against the pinko fucking pox or undergoing a weekly test for the virus by January 4th. Businesses that don't comply face thousands of dollars of fines, and it is excessive fines too. It's not just like they're talking $13,000 per person per instance. Which means they're going out to bankrupt anybody who would go back. The rule prompted a slate of legal challenges from at least 27 states, as well as businesses and religious groups who argue the mandate is unconstitutional. Biden and other federal officials argue the mandate is necessary to end the pinko fucking pox pandemic and fully reopen the economy. The Fifth Circuit granted a temporary stay on enforcement of the federal mandate on November 6th, one day after the rule was announced. In its reaffirmation on Friday, the court said the mandate exposes petitioners to severe risk and threatens to decimate the workforces and businesses it protects. Thank you, Instagram, for putting me up, but killing the stream halfway through. So, and I mean, it is blatantly unconstitutional, and legal scholars on Twitter who have hammers and sickles in their names will tell you, no, it's totally constitutional. The Supreme Court's going to slap it down because they already ruled it's constitutional. Yes, but they ruled it's constitutional on a state level. Like in Jacobson versus Massachusetts. If Massachusetts wants to put this into place and force this, that is within their state charter's right to do so, and constitutionality as well. Giving people the opportunity to move to New Hampshire or Connecticut or Rhode Island to escape the mandate. They have a place that they can go without renouncing their citizenship to the United States. That's why this was a state level thing and not a federal level thing. And that's one of the things, by the way, that these legal scholars over on Twitter, they don't understand. They don't get what's going on here. They don't understand what this means and why this is constitutional the way that it is. The federal government was never meant to have this much control over your life as to whether or not you put things in and out of your body. The states, they had their own purview to do so. And the federal government could work on interstate commerce to figure out whether or not that jived or not. And I'm telling you right now, if this does fail and fall through and the Supreme Court does strike it down, which could take years, by the way, much longer than they can milk this stupid fucking pandemic for whatever it's got left in it. But this could take years for the Supreme Court to even get around to this. Then yes, your blue states like California, Massachusetts, New York could possibly come back and do something. Yes, get out of those states. But that's what we see off of that. From NBC. This was fucking stupid. This was beyond stupid. From NBC, COVID vaccine holdouts are caving to mandates, then scrambling to undo their shots. From Ben Collins. In a TikTok video that has garnered hundreds of thousands of views, Dr. Carrie Madej outlined the ingredients for a bath she said would detox the vax for people who have been given into the COVID-19 vaccine mandates. The ingredients in the bath are mostly not harmful, including the supposed benefits attached to them are entirely fictional. Baking soda and Epsom salts, she falsely claims, will provide a radiation detox to remove radiation Madej falsely believes is activated by the vaccine. Bentonite clay will add a major pull of poison, she says, based on a mistaken idea in the anti-vax communities that toxins can be removed from the body with certain therapies. Then she recommended adding a cup of borax, a cleaning agent that's been banned as a food additive by the FDA, to take nanotechnologies out of you. Okay, so baking soda and Epsom salts. I mean, for baking soda, there are some things that making your bathwater basic, which is what that would do, would actually benefit you for the same with Epsom salts. There are benefits there. They're not the same benefits that this woman is talking about, but there are health benefits there. Bentonite clay, that's kitty litter, by the way. Bentonite clay would just make a mess out of your bathtub. That's cat litter. And the icing on the cake for this one, borax. Okay. If you uncritically, I always talk to people who uncritically take the news media at their word. I talk to those people all the time and say, if you do X, then Y. But I gotta throw this one to the MAGA people, who are probably gonna be the ones that are doing this if this even gets done. If you uncritically put borax in your bathwater and take a bath in it, I don't know what's gonna happen, because I don't know enough about borax for that. But if you uncritically put borax in your bathwater and take a bath in it, you deserve whatever comes to you. Plain and simple. And again, I don't know what that would be, because I've never tried it. Because I can afford body wash. I don't need to take a bath in borax. I can afford regular soap. If you do this and you have an adverse reaction, you deserve every fucking second of that adverse reaction. I'm telling you right now. Now it should be fine, because that's used as a laundry soap, which, I mean, you wash things, but you also rinse them. You wash your clothes in the stuff, and then you go put your clothes on your body. So by all intents and purposes, it should be non-toxic, but I don't know enough about it to say that it is. That's the thing. And when you wash your clothes in it, they go through a rinse cycle and get all the borax back out of them. In reality, in addition to being potentially harmful as a skin and eye irritant, borax detox bath will not remove the effects of the pinko fucking pox jab from your body. No shit, Sherlock. The video is one of several methods the anti-vax influencers and their communities on social media have in recent weeks suggested to their many followers who have capitulated and received the pinko pox jab. Anti-vaccine message boards are now littered with users, who are probably feds, caving to societal pressure or work mandates and receiving a coronavirus vaccination. Yeah, I'm sure the FBI has infiltrated anti-vax message boards too. They seem bored. Once you're injected, the life-saving your ass vaccination process has already begun. You can't unring a bell. It's not just physically possible, said Angela Rasmussen, a virologist and adjunct professor at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada. Detox remedies and regimens have been staples of the anti-vaccine movement for years. Long before COVID, anti-vaccine influencers and alternative health entrepreneurs promoted unproven and sometimes dangerous treatments they claimed would rid children of the alleged toxins that lingered after routine childhood immunizations. Children, many with autism, have been subjected to these disproven cures by way of parents convinced that they're alleviating suffering caused by heavy metal poisoning from the vaccines. The often costly remedies have included restrictive diets, supplements, chelation, and hyperbaric chambers, as well as more dangerous home remedies. Once again, if you try to take a bath with borax or do any of these other vaccine remedies, you deserve whatever happens to you. If you don't want it, don't get it. Except if Susan is watching, then you should still go and get it, because it's Hong Kong, perfectly safe in Hong Kong. Everybody should have it in Hong Kong. Don't worry, it's free in Hong Kong. There will be no side effects, Hong Kong. From the Dissociated Press. Just a couple brief ones on fact-checking for this. AP, vaccines can't be removed after injection contrary to cupping video. Claim, video shows COVID-19 vaccine be removed after injection using cupping therapy. Dude, I don't know what's going on with cupping either. I've seen videos and pictures of people getting cupped like this, and that shit looks like it hurts. AP's assessment false. There's no way to remove a vaccine after injection. The video shows blood from a superficial layer of skin, whereas the vaccine is injected deeper and into one's muscle. The facts. A video circulating across social media platforms falsely claims to show a method for extracting the pinkopox jab after it's been injected. Video showing the removal of vax content within 30 minutes of a jab reads text overlaid in the video shared repeatedly on Instagram, among other platforms, says the blood is coagulated. Right. There again, if you don't want it, just don't get it. Except if Susan's watching, then I have to tell everybody to go get it. Honk, honk. Everybody go and get it. Honk, honk. Reuters fact check. A preprint study that overstated the risk of contracting myocarditis following COVID-19 vaccine was retracted due to a miscalculation, but not before it featured in social media posts questioning vaccine safety. Translation: it was devastating to our narrative, so we pulled it back. Correction. October 4th corrects a spelling of denominator in paragraph 13, and in the same paragraph corrects 25 orders of magnitude off to 25 times smaller, changes magnitude to factor in a verdict. A preprint study which claimed that there is a 1 in 1,000 risk of contracting a heart inflammation condition known as myocarditis has since been retracted due to a calculation. Shit! People were using this as an excuse not to get the jab. Fuck, pull it back, issue retraction. Keeping on. Orwell and Good tweets out, and I promised my friend Kristen that this would wind up on the stack for today. On the wall, this wall of honor was built by the citizens of Cranbrook Branch. I can't read this through the graffiti. Royal Canadian and the Chamber of Firefighters. So this appears to be a Canadian wall honoring heroes, people who gave their lives for, I believe, war. But it might be firefighters too. But regardless, people who are actually heroes, people who have actually gone out and done things, given their lives for something they believed in. Whether it be fighting a fire or the government's forever wars, whatever they believed in, they gave their lives for it. And somebody went over and graffitied over the top of it, "The real heroes are the vaccinated!" It's not a cult, people. It's not a religion. Don't worry, it's not a religion. They'll tell you it's not a religion. All right, from the New York Post. Colorado house cat tests positive for the bubonic plague. We are really in the dumbest timeline, aren't we? From Mark Longariello. A Colorado house cat tested positive for the bubonic plague late last month, state health officials said. The kitty in the town of Evergreen likely picked up the infectious disease in an encounter with a sick rodent, such as a rat, Jefferson County Public Health announced in a statement. Isn't that how it started last time, too? Jim Rada, the agency's director of environmental health services, said in a statement that it is normal and expected that some animals would get the plague in Jefferson each year. The good news is that modern antibiotics are effective against the plague, and as long as it's treated promptly, severe complications, illnesses, or death can be avoided, Rada said. Plague is responsible for killing millions of Europeans, and in the Middle Ages is caused by the bacteria Yersinia pestis and is often spread to humans through flea bites or coughs or direct contact with infected animals. According to CDC, cats are often exposed to the disease by eating or coming into contact with rodents, the CDC said. So, would this be the wrong time to start singing Ring around the rosy. Maybe. Maybe it's just me, but why was one E out of all of them lowercase? I don't see the lowercase one. They're all capitalized. Except for the one, I have no idea about the one behind the flagpole, but they're all capitalized, it looks like. That one's got a curve in it from the graffiti that does look like it's... Oh, there it is. I see it right there. Huh. Interesting. I missed that. Alright, let's keep going. Shifting gears here, let's talk about Virginia. Lincoln Project Steve Schmidt roasts his own recklessly stupid group for Virginia Tiki Torch stunt. From David Rutz. Lincoln Project co-founder Steve Schmidt eviscerated his organization as recklessly stupid Wednesday after it planted fake white supremacists as Youngkin supporters in the waning days of Virginia's governor's race. Schmidt, who resigned from the disgraced left-wing PAC's board in February amid a myriad of scandals, but didn't separate himself entirely because he still wanted access to young boys, told longtime Democratic operative Robert Shrum that he was infuriated. He distanced himself from the stunt, claiming to have been largely uninvolved with the group since January. Let's listen.
Thank you for the question. I haven't talked about it. So I learned about it on the news, like everybody else. And had no involvement with it, and have not been involved operationally, strategically at all in the Virginia campaign, or really in the day-to-day with the Lincoln Project since the Georgia special elections. And what I'd say about it is on the 1 to 10 scale of being very angry, internally I clocked in at about a 57, and I expressed my opinions internally, and I'm not sure that I did the right thing by not saying something publicly, but if I did, I knew it would be more of a distraction for Governor McAuliffe, and I didn't want to do that. But I thought the action was recklessly stupid. It was dishonest and cheap. It is exactly the wrong way to approach the fight against a real fascist movement, against extremist elements. It showed appalling judgment by the day-to-day management leadership of the Lincoln Project. Someone could have gotten beaten up, could have gotten hurt, could have incited violence. There are 100 bad things that can happen. And so, to be involved in politics at any level is to touch upon a lot of bad judgments, as you know, that always swirl around. But I thought it was appalling judgment, and I was really unhappy about it.
Well, appalling judgment coming from the Lincoln Project. We are America's conservative forebears. We're America's conservative standard bearer of everything else. But we love young boys. From the New York Post. White House wants McAuliffe after Virginia gubernatorial loss. Report. Because of course they do. Because he's a Clinton operative. From Callie Pattison. The Brandon administration is searching for a job to give to Terry McAuliffe following his defeat in the race to be Virginia governor last week, according to a new report. Punch Bowl News reported Tuesday that the White House officials are looking to place the former Democrat National Committee chair somewhere in the hierarchy. The report cited multiple high-level sources familiar with the White House's thinking. It is unclear what position McAuliffe would hold, but the report noted that he is not actively seeking work in the admin. McAuliffe, who served as Virginia's governor from 2014 to 2018, was beaten by Republican political newcomer Glenn Youngkin in a stunning result in a state that President Biden carried by 10 percentage points, honk honk, in 2020. Despite McAuliffe holding an early lead in polls, Youngkin surged in the final weeks of the race by hammering Democrats over the economy and education issues, including the implementation of critical race theory in his school curricula. Both Biden and Harris stumped for McAuliffe in the closing days of the campaign in an unsuccessful bid to shore up the Democratic support for the McAuliffe victory. Yeah. A president with a 38% job approval rating and media doing nothing but glowing coverage of him, and a vice president with a 22% job approval rating and the media running absolute cover for her. What could possibly go wrong if they both went and stumped for this candidate? I wonder where they're going to stick him. They're going to stick him somewhere. Of course, with Youngkin now being in, and him being a Republican, they have to go find they have to find dirt on him. And they will dig up. And an effort was made. Because Youngkin is incredibly racist. He is, in fact, taking on Oriental culture. Like wearing a tux. Ben Pabyor, new governor, new yearbook photo. Jeff Thomas with Blue Virginia surfaced a photo of Governor-elect Glenn Youngkin at a high school prom event called An Oriental Occasion, where white people dressed in traditional Asian garb. Right, but he didn't. What's traditional Asian garb? A tuxedo? An evening gown? Yeah, it looks like there was some Asian dress in the bottom right corner, but I mean, I see cringy, late 70s hair and big shoulder dresses. An effort was made. It failed, but an effort was made. Hold on, I gotta look at something. Maxwell is tweeting, or trending rather. Okay, she's still alive. But the trial is starting. And there's Bill. All nervous. I'll use my regular Twitter window for that. Ghislaine Maxwell trial starts today. And there's Bill. I actually thought that she honk killed herself when I saw that she was trending. Alright, let's keep going. More Virginia news here. Loudoun County group files recall petition against school board chair Brenda Sheridan. From Neil Augenstein. After months of lining up at school board meetings to criticize elected members, a vocal advocacy group has filed a petition in the Loudoun County Circuit Court for the removal of school board chair Brenda Sheridan of the Sterling, Virginia district. In a news release, Ian Pryor, executive director of Fight for Schools, the group organizing the recall efforts, said they got 1,217 signatures from Sterling residents in 13 days. According to the Virginia Code, the petition must be signed by at least 10% of registered voters in the jurisdiction where the official was elected. The filing includes allegations that Sheridan limited the First Amendment rights of attendees at a board meeting by shutting down public comments and placing limits on who can speak. It also accuses Sheridan of mishandling a recently disclosed sexual assault at Stonebridge High School on May 28th, which led to the student being transferred to Broad Run High School, where he was charged with raping another girl. Pryor's invective continued during Tuesday's school board meeting. In announcing the petition had been filed, "I said we'd see you in court," Pryor said. "We are now in court." In a statement, Sheridan said, "My election was a mandate from those who came to the polls 3 times to choose me as their representative. Tuesday's filing is a result of a fraction of those citizens signing a petition, whether they voted or not." Yeah, that's awesome. You still fucking suck. Get out of that office. But that's what we see coming off of that. From the Daily Mail. Oh, I didn't archive this one. Why the fuck didn't I archive this one? I don't know. Let's read it anyway. Arizona School Board President kept secret dossier on parents who opposed CRT and mask mandates that was discovered after he accidentally sent a link to a mom. Private investigator ran background checks and filmed parents. From Keith Griffith for DailyMail.com. A school board president in Arizona has been accused of maintaining a secret online dossier after containing rather personal details about parents who opposed mask mandates and critical race theory. Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board President Jan Michael Greenberg's access to Google Drive file was revealed after he accidentally displayed the link in a screenshot he sent to a parent in a heated email chain. The drive contained files labeled SUSD wackos and anti-mask lunatics, among others, in a sprawling database tracking the online activities of parents in the district. The drive was sent to public, allowing anyone with a link to view it, and the contents, including the social security numbers, financial information, and divorce records of parents, quickly set off a firestorm of calls for Greenberg to resign, according to the AZ Free Press. Oh yeah, that's exactly what they do. Every single time, that's exactly what they do. If you become a political enemy, they go out there and they hire the private eye so they can go blast all of your dirty laundry out to the world. Now, usually it's grassroots people on, Facebook or whatnot who come out in the comment section when you criticize them. They're hiding behind a fan page with an anonymous account, but they come out and say, go pay your child support, Jim. Oh, hey, I see you had a speeding ticket this time, Alex. But I never thought I'd see it from a government official. So that's fun. From WISN 12 out of Milwaukee, via CNN. Shift gears here. Let's talk about Bannon. We talk about another one who is being persecuted by the federal government. Federal grand jury indicts former Trump advisor Steve Bannon for contempt of Congress. From Hannah Rabinowitz, Jessica Schneider, Evan Perez, Paula Reed, and Zachary Cohen, CNN. I'm old enough to remember, because I'm more than 5 years old. I'm old enough to remember. In 2016, when the former Secretary of State told us that we can't elect Donald Trump because he's the only reason that he is going to be president. The only reason he wants to be president so he can use the DOJ to go after his business enemies and political enemies. He's only going to use the position to go after Hillary Clinton and put all the people that he disagrees with in jail. He's going to be a fascistic dictator. I present to you Merrick Garland and Steve Bannon. A federal grand jury has returned an indictment against former President Trump advisor Steve Bannon for contempt of Congress, the Justice Department announced on Friday. AG Merrick Garland has been under tremendous political pressure to indict Biden since the House referred the Trump ally to the Justice Department for contempt on October 21st. Since my first day in office, I have promised Justice Department employees that we together would show the American people, by word and deed, that the department adheres to the rule of law, follows the facts and the law, and pursues equal justice under the law, Garland said in a statement on Friday. Today's charges reflect the department's steadfast commitment to these principles. Bannon was charged with one count related to his refusal to appear for a deposition and another related to his refusal to produce documents. Each count carries a minimum of 30 days and a maximum of 1 year in jail, the Justice Department said. A prosecutor with the U.S. Attorney's Office presented the evidence to the grand jury on Friday, CNN was able to confirm. Prosecutors on Friday afternoon presented an indictment and arrest warrant to federal magistrate judge Robin M. Merriweather. The judge signed the warrant for an indicted defendant with the initials SB, according to CNN reporters in the courtroom. A source familiar with the matter confirmed SB was Steve Bannon. Soon after, the Justice Department announced that Bannon had been indicted. Without an indictment, critics have said there's no doubt how much power the House January 6 Select Committee would have to compel cooperation from former White House and Trump administration officials on Friday. Former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows failed to appear for a deposition. Sources familiar with the investigation told CNN, setting up a potential showdown that could lead to the panel beginning a criminal referral process against him as well. So they're really doing it. They're really using the DOJ to go after Trump people. This is my favorite part of this, by the way. The grand jury was presented with an overwhelming and irrefutable evidence that Steve Biden's violation of congressional subpoena. Jamie Raskin, a Maryland Democrat who serves on the select committee, told CNN. A mountain of evidence! We told him to come in, and he didn't come in. A mountain of evidence! For a political witch hunt as it is. Merrick Garland issued a statement on this, of course, because he's Merrick fucking Garland. Since my first day in office, I have promised Justice Department employees that together we would show American people, by word and deed, that the department adheres to the rule of law. That's why we send the FBI out to school board meetings. Because the rule of law follows the facts of the law and pursues equal justice under the law, except for my political enemies, said Attorney General Merrick B. Garland. Today's charges reflect what my boss wanted me to do to make sure that no Republican ever gets elected again. Thank you, Merrick Garland. From Politico op-ed. Steve Bannon's contempt indictment isn't all that Trump foes think that it is. From Renato Mariotti. AG Merrick Garland's announcement that former Trump aide Steve Bannon was indicted by a federal judge for criminal contempt of Congress for flaunting January 6th committee investigating the attack on the Capitol has led some to believe that this could represent a turning point in the years-long effort by House Democrats to conduct oversight of the Trump admin. Don't count on it. Criminal contempt is a difficult charge to prosecute, which is one reason why the last referral for criminal contempt of Congress was in 1982 during the Reagan administration. Bannon's response to the committee was so ham-handed and flimsy that he practically goaded the Justice Department to prosecute him. Yeah, I could see that. Other Trump admin officials, such as Mark Meadows, who defied the order, appear for a deposition on Friday, have taken a more sophisticated approach that would make persecution much more difficult. So while the Bannon indictment certainly sends a message to anyone who might defy a congressional subpoena, like a coup memo, author John Eastman or former DOJ official Jeffrey Clark, don't expect more persecutions to follow. Smart attorneys can help Meadows and others avoid Bannon's fate. Unlike Meadows, the former Trump official Kash Patel, Bannon did not attempt to negotiate with the committee to narrow the scope of the subpoena. In fact, Bannon's attorney did not communicate with the committee until over 7 hours after Bannon was supposed to testify, as the House noted in its criminal referral. In that letter, Bannon's attorney did not raise any plausible privilege claim or identify categories of documents or subjects of testimony that could be potentially privileged. Instead, he claimed that Bannon would be unable to respond to the subpoena at all because former President Trump wrote a letter to Bannon claiming executive privilege. Bannon last served in the White House in 2017. And the fact that they're going back after somebody who hasn't served in the administration since 2017 is telling. It's very much telling when we look at this and we look at what's going on with this and where this goes. He hasn't been there in 2017, but he has been one of the demons of the administration since it started. Well, he's a white supremacist. He's for Breitbart. He's this. He's that. He's Steve Bannon. We're afraid of him. So, and of course, the left is looking at this and saying, oh, this is the first domino. All the dominoes are going to fall. And we're going to find the orange man in handcuffs at the end of all this. We're going to get him this time. We finally got him this time. I don't think they did. What else do we have here? I don't know if that came through... I just heard a pop somewhere. I don't know if it came through Discord, if that came through the music that's on here, if they didn't turn their notifications off, but that was weird. I've never heard that sound before. Do I have any direct messages anywhere? I don't think so. Interesting. I guess I'll have to go back and figure that out at some point here. Ex-Trump aide predicts how Bannon will respond to indictment. So let's watch this video.
Do you think he looks at this indictment as a badge of honor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I want to start out by saying I'm very glad that this is that the former president will...
Do you think he looks at...
Of course it's Jim a cocksucker. It couldn't be anybody else but Jim a cocksucker. I can't go into the press pool and badger Kayleigh McEnany or Donald Trump anymore, but I still need people to look at me, so look at me. I'm Jim Acosta. Look over here. Look at me.
At this indictment as a badge of honor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I want to start out by saying I'm very glad that this is happening. And I do hope that it will have, you know, many others who are getting subpoenaed, you know, like you said at the beginning, take a step back and realize there's some consequences here. However, my prediction is that the former president is going to tell everybody to continue to stall. They're going to fundraise off of this. Bannon himself, absolutely, I think, is going to wear this as a badge of honor and martyr himself almost. You know, this is a very small example compared to what's going on, but I recall in the White House when we would get Hatch Act violations. That was a badge of honor. It was a joke in the White House. And, you know, the president used to say to us, you know who's in charge of the Hatch Act? It's me. Go ahead, say whatever you want to say. I want to also say that I think this makes the 2022 elections more vital than ever, because I have a feeling, knowing them like I do, he's going to tell everyone to stall, and that if the House takes over with his rubber stamp candidates that he wants to get in, the special committee will then that's kind of what I foresee happening. But that's not to take away from what is, you know, what the select committee has done. And I'm very, very glad that they've done that. And I'm glad the DOJ decided to do what they did with Bannon.
Holy shit, that... I mean, it's Stephanie Grisham, so of course, because she's, for whatever reason, got an axe to grind with the administration. So she's just gonna say whatever it is that she can come out to get to sell more of her books, which you'll be able to find in the discount bin at Walmart fairly soon, after some Chinese firm bought 25 billion copies of them and stored them in a warehouse forever. Let's keep going. From Newsweek. Eric Swalwell expects Mark Meadows to comply with subpoena following Bannon indictment. From Ayla Slisko. Well, I mean, if he doesn't comply with the subpoena, I'm sure that Eric Swalwell is already doing fantasies about dropping a nuclear weapon on Mark Meadows. Representative Eric Swalwell has predicted that Mark Meadows, former aide to President Trump, will ultimately comply with his January 6th committee subpoena after criminal charges were filed against Steve Bannon. Swalwell made the remarks during an interview with MSNBC's Nicole Wallace shortly after Bannon, Trump's former White House chief of strategist, was indicted by a federal grand jury on contempt charges for defying his own subpoena from the committee. Meadows did not appear at a scheduled private hearing with the House panel at 10 a.m. Friday and could be the next to face criminal contempt charges. Mark Meadows is going to realize he doesn't look good in orange, and that he, like many others, are going to come forward and want to cooperate, Swalwell said. The DOJ has shown that there's no other path. Maybe Mark Meadows thought that the years of lawlessness would continue under Joe Biden. Well, they're... Jesus. I have no words for this. This is disgusting. You want to know what sounds like years of lawlessness? Well, I know the court said I couldn't do the eviction moratorium anymore, but I'm going to do it anyway. The court said that That's unconstitutional for OSHA to do a vaccine mandate. Do it anyway! That's what lawlessness in the White House looks like. More stuff from this here, from Will Chamberlain. The FBI raided Project Veritas on pretext and is now leaking their privileged communications to the New York Times, a former newspaper. This is a scandal. Project Veritas has long occupied a gray area between investigative journalism and political spying, and internal documents obtained by the New York Times, a former newspaper, reveal the extent to which the group has worked with its lawyers to gauge how far its deceptive reporting practices can go before running afoul of federal laws. The documents, a series of memos written by the group's lawyer, detail ways for Project Veritas sting operations, which typically diverge from standard journalistic practice, by employing people who mask their real identities or create fake ones to infiltrate target organizations to avoid breaking federal statutes, such as law against lying to government officials. Yeah, but that's what journalists did for 50 years before Jon Stewart started the laugh track clickbait news cycle. And yes, I listened to, last time I went on a long drive over the weekend just to set my brakes. I put new brakes on my pickup, as I mentioned, when I realized that my arm feels like shit right now. I put new brakes on my pickup, and then I went on a long drive with a lot of starts and stops to set them, and I was listening to Bridget Fetisi on Joe Rogan while I was on the drive out. And she pointed out, yeah, it does seem like this big sensationalist, do it for entertainment, do the news for entertainment thing that started with Jon Stewart, which Jon Stewart was a legend with that. He was good at it. The rest of these people, not so much. But the stuff that O'Keefe is doing now is the stuff that they were doing before. The same mainstream outlets were doing this before. It's just that somebody that they don't control is doing it now, and they're pissed. But that's what we see off of that. But maybe in some good news, from Fox News, federal judge orders DOJ to halt data extraction from J.M. O'Keefe's phones following FBI raid. From Joseph A. Wolf's Own. A federal judge ordered the Department of Justice to stop extracting data from the phones of Project Veritas founder James O'Keefe after his home was raided by the FBI. And as a part of the investigation into the missing diary belonging to President Biden's daughter, Ashley Biden. The order, which came on Thursday from District Judge Annalisa Torres from the Southern District of New York, granted the request from O'Keefe's legal team made Wednesday from an independent special master to be appointed to oversee the review of his devices. We are gratified that the DOJ has been ordered to stop extracting and reviewing confidential and privileged information obtained by the raids of our reporters, including legal, donor, and confidential source communications, O'Keefe's attorney, Harmeet Dillon, told Fox News. The First Amendment won a temporary victory today, but Project Veritas has a long way to go to hold the DOJ and FBI accountable for their actions. But Ed, don't you know how many times that Project Veritas has been sued for putting out wrongful information? Don't you know how many times they have been discredited? Yes, but he can go back and countersue and get most of this stuff overturned. I don't think there's been a case where he hasn't forced a retraction or an overturn yet at this point. I might be wrong on that, but as far as I know, there has not been a case where he has not come out on top. And of course, if we want to talk about selective editing, must see, Tim Pool goes on a completely unhinged anti-Semitic rant. Audience of Edheads, you be the judge on whether or not this was anti-Semitic. Let's listen.
These people are evil.
I'm asking myself, who
Adam Goldman of the New York Times, evil. We've got to stop playing these games. Why? They want this country to burn. They want power, and they will get it by any means necessary, and they will use the power of the federal government to do it. I am looking at all of you right now, and I am telling you this. The police will kick your door in and bash your teeth out the moment Black Lives Matter protests you. We've already seen it happen. You think this is a joke? James O'Keefe's legal privileged communications were just given to the New York Times, and Adam Goldman, with a smile on his face, published it. He doesn't care about this country. He doesn't care about our norms. These people are at war with you, and they will burn your life to the ground like they're doing to Rittenhouse and like they're doing now to James O'Keefe because you dare oppose their power grab. This is not a joke, and it is getting worse. And in the next 10 years, as we enter the fourth turning and it escalates, it is going to get worse. James O'Keefe is a journalist. The federal government stole his privileged legal... These people are evil.
I'm asking myself, who
Adam Goldman of the New...
Adam Goldman! It's anti-Semitic because he was going after somebody who had the last name Goldman. It's horrible. Tim Pool is a horrible racist. Fucking below me. From the Daily Wire. Talking about the infrastructure bill. GOP senator warns infrastructure bill includes budget gimmicks that will increase energy costs, make grid less reliable. From Jeffrey Kaywood. Senator John Barrasso, a Republican from Wyoming, appeared on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos. Oh, there's some good news. George Snuffleupagus. To discuss several topics, including the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, which President Joe Biden is expected to sign into law today. You know, hashtag Biden delivers. Stephanopoulos pressed Barrasso on why he voted against the package, citing a White House fact sheet that says Wyoming could receive $1.8 billion for federal aid highway apportion programs, $225 million for bridge repair and replacement, and $100 million for broadband internet expansion, $335 million allotted for water infrastructure. I was one of the original negotiators at the White House with President Biden, and I ultimately voted against it because they did use a lot of budget gimmicks, and they're adding $256 billion to the debt. They're adding more than that, said Barrasso. Some of the issues in there, in terms of energy, I think is going to make energy even more expensive, and I think it's going to make the grid less reliable. And of course, the big things is that they handcuff this infrastructure bill to this big, massive tax and spend bill, which every Republican is united in our efforts to try to drive a stake through the heart of this effort, which the Democrats are pushing because they're so addicted to taxing and spending. Barrasso, who's the chair of the Senate Republican Conference, also criticized Biden's scaled back Build Back Better plan, which he claimed would increase inflation and negatively impact Americans, especially those on fixed incomes. Let's listen.
Let's talk about the infrastructure bill he's going to sign into law tomorrow. Bipartisan infrastructure bill. The White House has put out a fact sheet showing the benefits to your state of Wyoming. I want to show it to our audience right now. They say $1.8 billion for highways, $225 million for bridge replacement and repairs, $100 million for broadband, $335 million for water infrastructure, and $72 million for airports. Why did you vote against a bill that provides so many benefits to your state?
Well, you know, I was one of the original negotiators at the White House with President Biden, and ultimately I voted against it because they did use a lot of budget gimmicks, and they are adding $256 billion to the debt. And some of the issues in there in terms of energy, I think is going to make energy even more expensive, and I think is going to make the grid less reliable. And then, of course, the big thing is they handcuffed this infrastructure bill to this big, massive tax and spending bill, which every Republican is united in our efforts to try to drive a stake through the heart of this effort, which the Democrats are pushing because they are so addicted to taxing and spending. Which they are, and I mean, that's not uncommon knowledge.
that they're addicted to tax and spend. That's part of the reason that they got in right now, is because they told their voters, we're going to tax and spend. And they promised it was only going to be the rich, but, you know, the rich will eventually run out of money, and then it becomes you. Especially if they continue to spend in the way that they are. Speaking of taxing, spending, and prices, the red-haired bobblehead is back. Our view is that the rise in gas prices over the long term makes an even stronger case for doubling down on our investment and focus on clean energy options. Come on, play.
Just to be clear, and I know that's been a criticism, so that's why I said that, not an accurate one. Look, our view is that the rise in gas prices over the long term makes an even stronger case for doubling down our investment and our focus on clean energy options so that we are not relying on the fluctuations and OPEC and their willingness to put more supply and meet the demand in the market. But just to be clear, and I know that's been a criticism, so that's why I said that, not an accurate one. Look, our view...
Yes, but unfortunately you've done that by stifling out the free market. And I do understand the fact that a lot more people bought more gas-guzzling vehicles when the bottom dropped out of the dollar. I understand that. I get that. People were less concerned about fuel and more concerned about getting where they needed to go, or towing or hauling or etc. But I mean, the innovation has already been there, and there are people that do, even when gas is low, are concerned about making sure that they get the best bang for their buck off of their gas. I mean, people were still buying EcoBoost F-150s in droves even after the gas prices came down. Because when it's unladen, you can get 25, 30 miles a gallon out of that EcoBoost F-150. I can do 22 at best with mine with a V8. At best scenario, I can get 22 out of that. But, and we can go over the differences in technology. I mean, with the EcoBoost counterpart, especially if you go 2014 to 2014, with the EcoBoost counterpart, you're looking at the fact that once you're laden down, on same stretch of road, same conditions, if I had myself maxed out on a trailer, my gas mileage would only drop to like 17, 18. Same conditions otherwise on the highway with 22. And that EcoBoost would drop from like 30 down to 10. Because what do we know about forced air induction engines? The harder you use them, exponentially, the worse their gas mileage gets. Even worse than a naturally aspirated engine. But regardless, people are still going out and buying these trucks in droves because they get better gas mileage out of them. They're buying the Hondas, the Priuses, the Bronco. Only comes in a 4-cylinder, and people are buying that. Excuse me, I'm not going to say that word. People are buying that little thing up as fast as they can get it because it's cool and it's easy on gas. Even when gas is at its lowest, people are still looking for a way to save gas. And yes, we did drive some innovation the last time we were artificially crunched up. But that doesn't change the fact that you are killing American families right now. Middle to lower middle class American families who just want to go to work, come home to the little 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom suburban. You are eviscerating them. Whether they have a Prius or whether they have an F-350, you are eviscerating them. With this call to shut down anything that makes the U.S. energy independent. All right, just a couple more here, then we will do rules of acquisition and head out of here for the day. We're almost done already. And I think the rest of these are pretty quick hitters too. Op-ed from The Hill, Kamala Harris, a 2024 problem for Biden and the Democrats. From Mira Adams. The Democrats have a 2024 conundrum with their apparent Vice President, Harris, presenting a maze of questions and complications. Let's start with the foundational problem. Her boss, President Biden. A USA Today Suffolk University poll conducted last week had Biden's job approval dipping to 38%, with 59% disapproving. Also, 64% of the registered voters surveyed opposed Biden running for re-election, including 28% of Democrats. Furthermore, mid-October, NPR Marist poll, with NPR it's probably NPR Marxist more likely, revealed 44% of Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents thought that someone else beside Biden would have the best chance of winning the presidency. Maybe now Biden is rethinking his March 25th statement. My plan is to run for re-election, and that's my expectation. After all, Biden's expectation might be thwarted by the growing perception that he is a weak leader, not up to the task of governing, and shaken by the shellacking Democrats received in last week's elections. Strategists dream of a turnaround after a potential string of legislative victories, but with an inflation soaring, their nightmare is the 2022 midterm elections warning of a red tidal wave, with Republicans likely to win control of the House and perhaps the Senate, unless there is a massive amount of Hong Kong. And the wave would crush Harris if she stars in a potential Republican attack ad. In the final days of the tight Virginia gubernatorial race, while campaigning with Democratic nominee Terry McAuliffe, Harris displayed a stunning lack of political savvy when she said, "What happens in Virginia will, in large part, what happens in 2022, 2024, and so on." Harris violated a cardinal political rule: never publicly state the future meaning of a race that your candidate could lose, and her candidate was walloped. If the midterms turn out to be a Democratic repudiation, stick a fork in Joe Biden's presidency and expect the following questions to occupy copious amounts of cable bandwidth. 1. Will Biden announce that he's not running for re-election? Which puts him at a complete lame duck session, by the way. 2. Will Harris pressure Biden to announce his 2024 plans early? Then she could begin to act like a president waiting while potentially keeping her primary opponents at bay. And 3. If Biden announces that he will be a one-term president, when will he endorse Harris as a successor? And number 4. At the heart of Harris's 2024 conundrum are her consistently dismal job approval ratings, the latest at 28%, with 51% disapproving, and Harris's Real Clear Politics average favorable rating is 40%, with 51% unfavorable. Yeah. And also, lastly, will Democrats elect Harris as their nominee because it's her turn? Historically, it's their turn strategy does not end well for either party. See Clinton, Hillary, 2016. White House winners are usually charismatic leaders with their fingers on the nation's pulse, and Harris fell short on both. President Biden was a notable exception. He was hardly charismatic, but fit the bill when Americans sought a no-drama return to normalcy after 4 years of President Trump. How the fuck did that work out for you? No drama. So they're already counting on Harris being walloped, which is good, because she needs to be. Alright, just a few more here. Speaking of Harris, I have not listened to this video yet, but the caption caught my attention, so I kind of want to see what it says. When you zoned out during the SAT writing section and you needed another paragraph to hit that minimum length. Let's listen to what that other paragraph is.
We must together work together to see where we are headed, where we are going, and our vision for where we should be, but also see it as a moment, yes, to together address the challenges and to work on the opportunities. We must together work together.
1,000-word minimum. All right, let's grab one. I can't believe I'm this far into the show and then we haven't listened to our friends over at National Progressive Radio. The Marine Corps is reinventing itself to reflect America, says Top General. This was heard on Morning Edition, and this is from NPR, National Progressive Radio. Let's have a listen to what it is that they have to say, but do remember to donate. NPR needs your money. They need your donations to continue to spread communist ideals to everybody. So hit that button because it's not your money, comrade. It's our money. NPR, never printing reality. Let's see what Emma Bowman, Rachel Martin, Taylor Haney, and Scott Salloway have to say. The Marine Corps, the smallest U.S. military force, has plans for a big overhaul designed to address its lack of diversity and problems with retaining troops. The goal that's driving what amounts to a cultural shift within the service is for the Marines to reflect America, to reflect the society we come from, General David Berger, commandant of the Marine Corps, said in an interview with NPR's Morning Edition. It's not a matter of being politically correct or woke, he said. The core of America's strength lies in its diversity, Berger said, adding the same is true for the military. Our advantage militarily is on top of our scholars, he said. It's not actually our equipment. We are better than anybody else, primarily because we don't all think exactly alike. We don't come from the same backgrounds. His new plan, titled Talent Management 2030, outlines the measure the Corps will implement to boost recruitment and improve career flexibility. About 75% of troops leave the Marine Corps at the end of their 4-year term, the highest turnover rate among the military services. To compete in an age of cyber warfare and space-based weaponry, the Marines wants to shake its manpower model that historically prized youth, physical fitness, and discipline over education, training, and technical skills. According to the new plan, the aim is to grow a corps that is more intelligent, physically fit, cognitively mature, and experienced. The capabilities that we think are going to need a force that's able to operate much more distributed, much more spread out than perhaps we're accustomed to in the past, using a different set of technologies that we have 5 or 10 or 15 years ago, he said. I think the people that we bring in will be able to handle the technologies and also the decision making. It's really more about the decision making than it is about the technology. Okay, cool. You're a Marine. You're first in, first out at every opportunity that you have. Every time we have to have some sort of engagement out there, you are first in and first out. I don't know what it is that you want to change about that or why you want to change that, but typically it's the Air Force that deals with the cybercrime. Now, I can understand bringing more people on to come back out and do the cybersecurity stuff, but these people do still need to be able to pick up a gun and defend themselves if the bunker where they're operating the drones out of does get attacked by an enemy combatant. I mean, yes, there are opportunities where you could do some of this stuff across the world, but there does still need to be some locality off of this, and that is what you read your branch for. Like, do whatever. I would actually not mind seeing us get pulled out of some of these wars anyway, but I didn't serve, so I don't feel like I have a lot of place to criticize here, but I mean, I just look at this structurally and coming out of here, and I want somebody who is tasked with defending the country, and once again, I separate protecting the country from the forever wars, but I want somebody who's tasked with protecting the country and our allies if need be, to be as effective at killing other people as possible. That's what I want. From the Daily Wire. Elon Musk drags Bernie after attack on the wealthy. I keep forgetting that you're still alive. From Hank Berrien. On Sunday, Tesla founder and CEO Elon Musk dragged radical leftist Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders after Sanders snapped, "We must demand that the extremely wealthy pay their fair share, period." Musk responded on Twitter, "I keep forgetting you're still alive," adding, "Want me to sell more stock, Bernie? Just say the word." The latter comment referred to Musk's sale of a combined $6.9 billion worth of shares as of Friday. On November 6th, Musk created a Twitter poll asking whether he should sell 10% of his stock in Tesla, tweeting, "Much is made lately of unrealized gains as a mean of tax avoidance, so I propose selling 10% of my Tesla stock. Do you support this?" Roughly 58% of the 3.5 million votes cast said that he should. Musk added, I will abide by the results of this poll, whichever way it goes. Note, I do not take cash salary or bonus from anywhere. I only have stock, thus the only way for me to pay taxes personally is to sell stock. So, with that, we are going to... We'll see what happens with this, and if he goes off and sells another $10 billion worth of stock, that's going to be a shock to all three of the markets, because Tesla is on all three of the major indices. And everywhere else in finance. Plus Tesla itself, so we'll see what happens with that. One that we missed from Friday, coming to us from Fox News. Some foreign stuff for us. Shut up, you. Iran-backed Houthi rebels detain Yemenis working for U.S. Embassy, compound breached. From Caitlin McFall. Houthi rebels backed by Iran continue to hold Yemeni employees of the U.S. government hostage, the State Department confirmed on Thursday. Earlier this week, reports surfaced that show 25 Yemenis in Yemen's largest city of Sana'a, who worked with the U.S. Embassy, said U.S. aid had been arbitrarily detained by the rebel group. A State Department spokesman told Fox News the majority of the hostages have been released, but that embassy staff continue to be detained without explanation. We've been unceasing in our behind-the-scenes diplomatic efforts to secure their release. Press Secretary Ned Price told reporters on Thursday, "We've seen some progress and we're continuing to work on this critical issue." The U.S. closed its Yemen embassy in 2015 amid a violent civil war that has since led to the greatest humanitarian crisis in the world, according to the UN. Though while American diplomats were sent stateside, some Yemeni staff continued to work from home or as security guards at the embassy, Bloomberg reported. It remains unclear which members of the embassy staff have been arrested by the rebel group, but the compound has also been breached, according to the State Department spokesman. "We call on the Houthis to immediately vacate and return all seized property," the spokesman said. "The U.S. government will continue its diplomatic effort to secure the release of our staff and the vacating of our compound, including through our international partners." So, that's happening over in the Middle East. Now, it does not appear that these are any U.S. citizens that are involved in this, but I don't know, this has got to be something that we need to at least be paying attention to while we have our senile old houseplant in chief sitting at the button of the nuclear
ask
codes.
Questions that viewers care about. And he said,
Really?
"Oh, we did.
We did.
Stephen Hayes.
Sitting at the nuclear codes and also having command of going in and pushing some of these displaced soldiers from Afghanistan over into Yemen. We'll see what happens. As of right now, it's been nothing yet, but I don't trust this administration. All right. And the last one from NBC. Former Starbucks CEO uses Holocaust analogy to describe coffee company's mission. From Ahiza Garcia Hodges. Former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz is facing backlash from employees and on social media after he drew a comparison over the weekend between Holocaust prisoners and the coffee company's mission. His comments to workers came ahead of a unionization vote by some workers in Buffalo, New York. In a video on Starbucks' YouTube page, Schultz, who is Jewish, can be seen speaking passionately to employees. Saturday, he refers to a story about Holocaust prisoners at a concentration camp in Poland who had to share their limited resources. "Not everyone, but most people shared a blanket with 5 other people," Schultz said, adding that he was inspired to share his own blanket with 5 other people. "So much of that story is threaded into what we tried to do at Starbucks, so is to share our blanket." The video and his comments were met with criticism on social media. Vina Dubal tweets out Starbucks anti-union propaganda instrumentalizes the Holocaust. So awful. It's so awful. Schultz, who is chairman emeritus of Starbucks, has referred to the story in the past, saying it's a tale about humanity. He said Starbucks has a long tradition of doing right by its employees, including offering healthcare, benefits, tuition reimbursement, and equity in the company. Starbucks closed some of its stores in Buffalo area so workers could attend Schultz's talk. While Schultz, the company's largest individual shareholder, never directly addressed the issue of unionization, he made several appeals to workers to realize that Starbucks isn't a perfect company that will make, but instead that the company will try to fix them and learn from them. I think they missed the word mistakes in there. So he's trying to stop the unionization, trying to beg them, saying, I'll give you what you want, just don't unionize. And using the Holocaust to come back out and try to prevent the unionization. That's classy. All right. Let's do one of the rules of acquisition and let's head out of here for the day. So the last thing we always do is go down through memory beta and take one of the rules of acquisition. We were on the 33rd rule of acquisition. And 34 and 35 are pretty much the same, but we will take each one individually. And this comes to us from two sources. One is a novel, the 34th Rule, and one is Destiny, the DS9 episode, which I do remember that episode as well. And actually both these rules came from all of this. So the 34th Rule of Acquisition is war is good for business. And I can't think of anything that's more apt. Now, I'm very anti-war myself, very much so. I don't think we should be going to war, especially in the foreign theaters. If somebody's dumb enough to try to come over to this shore and try to knock on our door, then they should be met with all kinds of force. But as far as us going and interfering somewhere else, no, we shouldn't be doing that. But war is good for business. And we saw some of this. This is part of the reason, especially looking and analyzing where our economy was going in the 90s into the 2000s, why I believe that the major crash came in 2008 instead of 2003. Like, everything was pointing to the fact that it was going to come from, because war is good for business. There are a few instances of why that is, too. Let's think of some of the local marketplaces. And Sully Blue, if we talk to him ever again, I don't know if he's just driving and listening right now, but if we ever talk to him again, he could probably tell you about some of his time over in Afghanistan and what happened with that. And, you know, yes, you go out in the war zone, you go out in the tents, but you're there, you go into the communities, you can buy stuff at some point. I don't know how all that works legally, but I mean, you can go buy stuff, you can visit some of the local markets. The Civil War, while there were battles going on in places, generals from the South would come into the Union, eat in restaurants up in the Union. We saw it in World War II. We saw a lot of it. When I watched one of my favorite movies in the world, Inglourious Bastards, where we saw a lot of people from the various different countries that we're fighting against. They were in foreign countries for diplomatic reasons, for reasons undiplomatic, as soldiers. They were in other countries, eating the local fare, visiting the local restaurants. Plus, of course, war is good for business. On your Raytheons, your big business contractors. Boeing gets a big cut off of war. As much as it sucks, and this is the reason that we stay in these perpetual forever wars, is because they are good for business. And we are being run in a situation where the business people are pulling the strings. So yes, war is absolutely good for business. I hate war. War is hell, but war is good for business. And next week, we will talk about how peace is good for business. But that is going to be it for the day. We're done. We're out of here. So let's get everything transferred back up and let's see what's going on with this and where this goes. Let's change the track and let's head out of here for the day. So thanks everybody who came by, chatted in the live chat, came and hung out with us. Thank you for Game Chalk's Video Game Study Lounge for the music in the background, because I have to shout them out every time I use them. So thank you to them. Go check them out on YouTube. They change the link every once in a while, but they usually run for days and days and days on end. So go and check them out. We will be back here later on tonight with the wonderful Katie Zed to talk about the Rittenhouse trial and everything that's going on with that, and all the observations we have both made from watching both sides of this trial. So it's definitely going to be a time. It's definitely going to be something to see, something to talk about, something to go. So definitely watch for that. That is at 5:30 Central Time. So definitely come and hang out with us for that. Otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow with more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.